Hello, my dear students. I hope you all are doing well. So, today we will see some important figures of speech or poetic devices. Now, poetic devices or figures of speech basically what they do, they enhance the text or the poem, right? They create a good effect so that the readers enjoy reading the poem or the text. All right. So, we will see some simple, very common figures of speech today. The first is the simile, the simplest one. I hope you all must have heard about a simile. Basically, what we do in a simile is that we compare two things using like and as. Okay, for example, her voice was as sweet as gulab jamun. So I'm comparing her voice to the sweetness of a gulab jamun using the word as. The soldier fought like a lion in the war. Okay, so I'm comparing the soldier with a lion. I'm using again like here. Now, the difference between simile and the metaphor which is our second figure of speech, is basically only the word like and as. So, in simile, we do a direct comparison using the word like and as, and in metaphor, we do not use like and as, but we still compare two things. The classroom was a battlefield during the exams. Alright, so I'm comparing the classroom with the battlefield, but I'm not using the words like and as here. The soldier was a lion in the war. Again, you can see previously the soldier fought like a lion in the war. I'm using the word like here. But again, I'm doing the same thing here without using like and as. So simile and metaphor, again, similar figure of speech. The difference is only that it is direct and one is indirect comparison. Next is personification, and I'm sure you must have heard this too. Personification is we give human qualities, we attribute human qualities to inanimate, non-human objects. For example, we attribute human qualities to trees, to rivers, to sea. Usually personification you see in poems which are based on nature, etc. Right? So the sun smiled brightly over the fields. Now this indicates a sunny day. Of course, the sun does not smile, right? But to indicate a good effect, we are using the personification here. The sun smiled brightly over the fields. The river danced through the valleys. Again, what we are indicating? We are indicating that the river flows through the valleys, a flowing river. But to create a good effect, we are using personification here. The river danced through the valleys. So whenever you see that, an inanimate object has been given a quality of, something which a human does, you can identify that it is a personification. Next is the hyperbole. Now hyperbole is what we exaggerate, right? जैसे हम कहते हैं बड़ा चढ़ा के. Okay, so we exaggerate, we put emphasis on certain things, right? To create a good effect so that the readers enjoy reading it. I was so hungry I could eat a mountain of biryani. Obviously, nobody can eat a mountain of biryani, but to indicate that he or she is very hungry, we're using this hyperbole. He has called me 1,000 times today. Okay, nobody calls you 1,000 times. Your ma'am says that I've told you 1,000 times. Obviously, ma'am does not tells 1,000 times, but to indicate the fact that I have told so many times, we're using this kind of a figure of speech, that is hyperbole. So extreme exaggeration of things. Alright, the next is alliteration. Now alliteration, what we do, we repeat the same consonant sound at the beginning of the nearby words. See how big boulders block the bridge. So we're using B. Alright. Next example, you can see big brown bear brought bags of berries. So in alliteration, what we do is that we repeat the consonant sound. Big boulders blocked, or big brown bear, like that. Next is onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is a figure of speech where the word imitates the natural sound associated with that particular object. For example, the bees buzzed around the blooming flowers. Now the bees do make a buzzing sound, right? The kettle whistled as the water boiled. So the kettle does make that whistle sound, or kettle, or for that matter a pressure cooker, etc. So it does have that sound. Okay, so what we are simply doing, we're using that their natural sound with that particular word or object. The clang of temple bells echoed in the village. So whenever you ring a bell, it echoes, right? So again, I'm using that kind of natural sound of the bell with the word. So that is onomatopoeia. Oxymoron is when we place two opposite words together. The bittersweet memories of school farewell. So I'm using bitter and sweet together. So whenever you find two extremely opposite words together, you know that this is an oxymoron. Okay, so that is how you will identify an oxymoron. The living dead haunted the horror movie. Again, living and dead are two different words, opposite words. We're using them together, so it's an oxymoron. Next is irony. Irony is, when we say or what we do the opposite of what we mean. Okay, a dentist with a sweet tooth who loves eating candy. Now a dentist is basically what? He cures dental problems, right? And he loves eating candies. So something which is you can also call this hypocrisy, right? So irony is basically, or you're doing something else, you're saying something else. The pilot has a fear of heights. So the work of the pilot is to fly the airplane, right? And he or she is himself or herself has a fear of heights. So again, this indicates an irony. Next is repetition. Repetition is when we use a word or phrase for emphasis, to create an emphasis, to create a good effect. And miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. So the poet, what he or she does, he repeats the same sentence, right? To put emphasis, show its importance in the poem or the text. Run, 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 the train is about to leave. So again, we are showing urgency here, that the train might leave. So repetition, whenever the same phrase or the word is repeated a number of times, you can identify that this is repetition. Imagery. Now imagery, what we do is that we create a beautiful image, an extravagant image in the mind of the readers, right? To create a beautiful effect that when while you're reading the poem or the text, you have that image in your mind. Okay, you'll start developing that image in your mind. For example, the smell of freshly brewed chai filled the air. So again, when I'm reading this, I'm already imagining, a cup of tea and hot steam coming out of it, etc., etc. The sight of golden fields of wheat stretched to the horizon. Okay, so whenever I'm telling you about this, you automatically start thinking about a field, etc., right? If I tell you about mountains, if I give you a phrase about mountains, you'll start thinking about the mountains, the hills, the valleys, etc. So again, creating a beautiful and extravagant image in the minds of the readers. Okay, so these are 10 important figures of speech or poetic devices. I am sure that you will find these helpful. Thank you. God bless.